welcome back to the review show, the Whatnauts review show. This is episode 103. I'm way too excited. That's why I'm stuttering so much, because it's actually working. I'm trying this new stream technique, and it's working, and I'm so stoked.
Oh,
okay.
Good.
Here we are, live and direct, with another episode of our podcast, where we get together and pick a new story every single week. Could be a comic, could be a manga, movie, TV show, who knows. We rate it, we watch it, do what we have to do, come back here and talk about it. My name is Kyle Springer, and I am joined, as always, by Melissa Wilkinson.
Yes.
How are you?
I'm good. I made a crunch wrap for dinner.
Oh, nice. A homemade crunch wrap supreme.
It was supreme. It had sour cream on it, which I believe is what designates something as supreme. I don't know if there's other qualifiers. That might be it. I don't know. That's what it means in my own mind. It just comes with like an extra condiment or two. Yeah, with less access to fast food, I have to figure out how to make it in my own kitchen.
Well, there you go. I say that's a success if you got to make your own with that one. Besides that, how has your week been?
It's same. I don't know.
Same old, same old. Sounds about right. My week was kind of blah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cleaning. Stuff like that.
It's important.
Okay, well, let's see. We are here to talk about volumes 1 through 3 of the Heroic Legend of Arslan. This is a manga that I've actually seen the anime adaptation of. I had not read the manga, and I saw that it was on Comixology Unlimited, so I thought, hey, why not pitch that? That would be a fun one to do. But you ended up picking this one of the 3 that I pitched. Why did you pick this one?
Because you said it was a fantasy story, which is one of my favorite genres, but not one of yours. So I thought I would take these opportunities, as they are rarely given to me.
Yeah. I heard you say fantasy, and then I was like, did I say it was fantasy? Because I don't know if I described it as fantasy.
And it's not really what it is. This is a series that feels like it should have way more magic in it than it does. There's no magic.
There might be a character that ends up doing quote unquote magic, but it's like what you would expect of just a period piece where they just didn't understand how things worked. If that makes sense.
Yeah. He's just a scientist, but nobody has that word yet. So he's a wizard. Yeah.
Yeah. But I really enjoy this one, not so much for the fantasy aspects. I think this is as fantasy as it gets for me, really. I mean, well, that's not true, but
yeah, it's not really fantasy, but it has the trappings of so many other things that go along with fantasy.
Right. Yeah. It has knights, and it has big old battles and kings and princes and secret cults and who knows what, and there's all sorts of stuff like that. But I think for me, what really drew me to this story when I just happened to watch it on a whim, I was like, oh, these characters look like Fullmetal Alchemist characters, which they were based off designs of the same creator. So I watched it and I was like, ooh, this is good. That they have the whole chess game thing going on here, where it's this coming of age tale about a prince, and he is kind of exiled from his kingdom, and then he has to figure out how to get things back. and stay alive. So it's an interesting one. It's more of a pseudo political thriller.
Yeah.
More action thriller.
It's political thriller junior.
Sure. Yes. Yeah. Exactly. So I enjoyed it a lot, and reading the manga, I think, seemed to go a lot faster than what the show seemed like it was doing. I've been talking a lot, though. What did you think?
No, you haven't. No, I liked it. It is, like I said, I'm a big fantasy person, and even if the story doesn't totally get there, it is enough of other things that feel familiar to me that I was able to latch onto it. It is an interesting story. Like I like the way it does its tone. Like, it is a young adult story about a prince who's 11 when we start, and then he's 14 for most of the story. So it's like really approachable at that level, but then also they don't pull any punches when it's time for a battle scene or for some guys to sword fight. Like, there's a couple real brutal blows in this. Yeah, like, it can be gruesome, but then there's also these real heartwarming little moments. That's something I really appreciated about this book. It was really well-rounded. It did a little bit of everything and did it pretty well.
Okay, yeah. That's kind of what I thought too. But yeah, let's do a synopsis, which I kind of already did. But we'll do a better one here. So, the Heroic Legend of Arslan focuses around a young prince named Arslan, who is next in line to be king, but he, for one reason or another, maybe just isn't feeling it, or feels like he's not going to be the king that his father wants him to be.
Yeah, it's an important part of the story that neither of his parents seem to care for him or for each other.
Yeah.
His dad's just like, I'm going off to battle, me and my soldiers, and you stay home and train with the old vizier. And Arslan's just like, oh, okay, Dad. And he doesn't like training. It's boring to him. Like, he kind of wishes he could be the brave warrior, but he's not quite up to it, partially because there's nobody around him to really root him on that much. He doesn't have a great support system.
Not really. But during that time from when we first see him to about when he's 14, I think you said it was 11 when we first saw him and 14 when we see him next, there is a war that starts. And there's a big battle that's about to happen right outside the like main city there, and this is about to be the prince's first battle. And they go out, they ride out to battle. Everything goes wrong. And basically the city is under siege, and the prince is exiled. Kind of like a just victim of circumstances. Yeah,
like he's just left behind. Like he gets too far away from the main battle, and then the rest of the soldiers and the king and everybody just kind of lose track of him. And there's one guy who's been appointed to like, I'm gonna watch out for the prince, and the two of them kind of get whisked away to safety somewhere else apart from the rest of the army.
Yeah. And so he not only has to work his way back home, but just work his way at kind of regaining the kingdom that he belongs to, because it's in shambles, and there's betrayal, and there's all sorts of like weird secret villains. Who is this person? It does one of my favorite things in anime, where the bad guy is behind a mask. He has a like some silver mask, and that's his name in this. They call him Silver Mask, just like Char Aznavour from Mobile Suit Gundam. So like it pushes a lot of buttons for me that I like. It has a little bit of the political stuff, has some action, it has some comedy, it has some good characters, and just some good character moments there. But we read the first 3 volumes, and I think this actually was a really great stopping point.
Yeah.
For all of that. Fun fact, if you did not know, this is actually based off of a series of novels.
I just read that.
And I believe there was a manga adaptation created in like early 90s. But then the one we read is a much more recent adaptation. And the first 3 volumes that we read cover the first novel.
Okay,
of
that
the
makes
books,
sense.
Harry's. I think there's what does this say? Like 16 book series. I don't know where I saw that. Yes, 16. So yeah, it just serendipitously happened to stop right at a good spot. I was like, oh, this is a good spot to stop. Good spot to be like, but it's also a cliffhanger. What happens next?
Yeah.
So there we go. Do you have anything else to add?
I think that's a good setup. Yeah.
Cool. We will move on to a little bit of housekeeping then, and then we will get into spoiler territory and start talking a little bit more in depth about the book. So if you guys did not know, we have multiple podcasts here at the Whatnauts. You guys can find out more information on our website, thewhatnauts.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. Just type in the Whatnauts and all of our shows will pop up right there. My mind just went blank.
Okay, here's more stuff you can know about us.
You would think after 103 episodes I would have this down.
Yeah, we have other podcasts. You can listen to our chat show, The Captain's Log. You can listen to Crossplay, Kyle's video game show. Find all these podcasts. Find all these video feeds on YouTube. If you were listening to this as a podcast, wow, surprise. We record the video feeds too, usually, and we put those up on our YouTube page so you can watch us do these things.
Yeah.
And some of these we stream live.
If you guys like what we do, patreon.com/the Whatnauts is where you can support us for as little as $1 a month. You guys can get access to episodes early. You guys can get on the live streams of this episode, or this podcast, I should say. And we would also like to give a big shout out to our Patreon supporters at our $5 tier. So thank you, Sam.
Thanks,
who has been
Sam.
supporting us for quite a bit and was just recently on an episode of The Captain's Log with us. So,
which is not a Patreon reward tier. Sam is just an old friend of mine. So she was a guest in that capacity.
Exactly. I think that about wraps us up for housekeeping. I should say I am testing out this new thing. It seems to be working okay at times. Right now the stream seems to be a little choppy, even though it's telling me it's fine. And I don't think I was recording the start of the video. So we'll figure it out. We'll go from there. Anyways, let's get into spoilers. Of course, I forgot to update the spoiler graphic, and it's like all messed up and humongous. But there you go. We'll just roll with it.
Yeah.
Okay. Spoilers. Melissa, I'm tossing to you. What stood out about this to you? Is there a spot that you want to jump in first?
I want to talk about the big mystery, quote unquote mystery of the story, because you meet Arslan, sweet innocent little boy. He's worried about his dad's approval. His dad comes in. His dad looks nothing like him.
Right. Yeah. He's this like big butch macho man with, just like mean looking face, just
But not even like that. Like the fact that he's like a stylized, macho, burly king, and Arslan's just like a Hanson. He's just like a little teen idol boy. Like it's beyond that.
Teeny
it's like
bopper.
You look at it, it's like that cannot possibly be his real dad. Like that's the game here. That's why this guy hates Arslan. He knows that's not his son. And then when you meet the mom is also very cold and standoffish and doesn't hardly talk to either of them. And it's like, okay, all right. She's like...
not in a mean way, but in a more like, I'm just distancing myself from this whole situation.
Yes, she's not malevolent. She doesn't kind of tease the boy or neglect him like the king does. But you're right, it is more distant. And so you're starting to get this picture put together of, okay, the queen had an affair. Her and the king are still mad at each other about it. He hates Arslan. She also has a distant relationship with Arslan, doesn't really know how to deal with him, even though it's been 11, 14 years. So you've got very quickly, you get that picture. And then I think one of the knights or like royal court advisors makes a mention to Daryun, I think. Is that right?
Are you talking about the knight? That's the knight that is sent to be protecting.
I knew it was there's so many assorted knights that show up and honestly get killed off pretty easily. But Daryun's the main knight. Like somebody remarks to him, like, would you say that the prince looks more like his mother or his father? And he's like, well, his mom. So you would say that the prince does not look like the king at all then. Okay, I want you to think about that.
Yeah, he's just like, just hold that thought.
Yeah. Hold on
Keep
to
it
that.
There.
And there's this other truly exiled court member that keeps being referred to as like used to be an ally of the king. They had too many disagreements, but he had been too honorable to just kill. So the king's like, I'm exiling you. And Daryun's like one of the few people who's still friends with this guy and will travel and go out and see him. And when they're separated from the big battle, he's like, okay, well, this guy, he's not too far from here. I know we can trust him. I'm taking you to go see that guy. And the second he opens the door, it's like, oh, that's the dad. That's the real dad. That has to be him. And then you don't get anything more about it for like the next 2 books in this series. For a series that was a pretty quick read, I was surprised that this story thread like got laid dormant so quickly and didn't get picked back up again.
Yeah. So you thought this Narcissus is
Narcissus, yes,
his name. So you thought he's going to be the father. Turns out.
Yeah, like it narratively kind of fits into that missing puzzle piece. This is why the guy probably was exiled. Like the king's like, I can't stand to look at you. And maybe the queen's like, no, he's the father of my child. Spare his life. And the king's like, well, I'll just exile him then. Like it fits in. The guy looks more like Arslan. He's got more of that sort of warm, whimsical vibe to him that Arslan kind of shares. I also reserved space for, well, all we know is that he just looks vaguely like Arslan. Maybe the queen is a long lost brother or something, like, and that he's the illegitimate child of some previous royal, and that's why he's hidden away. Like, oh, we can't let anybody know that's the queen's brother. That's why he looks like Arslan. It's his uncle or something. I'm like, could be one of these things. No, well, we don't know yet. They're not talking about it anymore. Like, it seems like, here, look, an advancement. Here, the next plot, the next step in that storyline, and it leaves it there. We don't talk more about who Arslan's dad might be.
But the book does kind of go to this spot where it's not necessarily about the prince's lineage. There is more mystery within the family of just like what happened in the past and stuff like that. Like we don't really know because it's like, okay, if the current king is not his father, who is the king right now? And where's the rest of his family, and all of that stuff. And then by the end of these 3 volumes, again, spoiler alert, we find out that basically the main villain, Silver Mask, is the king's nephew.
He killed his this is the same plot as Black Panther. Like, he killed his dad, so there's been this other
basically
son.
Now that you mention it, yeah. Yeah.
Except
Didn't
here
even
it's like
think about that.
an adult man and like a wide-eyed, innocent 14-year-old boy. These are our 2 opponents.
Yeah. And maybe I don't remember, because it's been a while since I've seen the anime, so I don't remember what happens past all of this stuff, or like how it exactly all plays out. But yeah, like I don't know if he's a character that you end up wanting to root for or not. Of like, oh, you
Didn't
actually
seem
have a
like
legitimate claim to the throne here. You know, in Black Panther, you're like, oh, the king fucked up. This guy actually should be king. Like, I want to root for the bad guy here, right? But in this manga, he's still, he's more vengeful than he is just like, hey, you guys screwed me.
Yeah, and the king killed his I think it's his older brother. I think he does kill him like just straight for power reasons. Like, it's not any kind of like, we've disagreed about how to rule the kingdom and I think that your ideas will be bad for the kingdom, so I'm going to do away with you. Like, there's no scrap of nobility to it. It is just I want to be the only king.
Very cold.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we do have that storyline.
We do get one mention of a fire in the past. We don't see it, but it's another one of those like, hey, do you think Arslan looks like the king? No? Yeah, me neither. There is this like, there was that one mysterious fire that one time. Remember that? That was weird. And then we see this villain, Silver Mask, who has this mask on his face, and when it finally falls off, his face is all burned. And so you can kind of put 2 and 2 together. Yeah. It's like, oh, they thought he was the dead nephew that they mentioned that one time, but he's still alive. Surprise!
Yes. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. No, so Arslan's parentage being in question, which is something he does not question. Arslan does not think, boy, it's weird that I don't look like my dad. That's entirely like other characters in the story and the audience. As far as Arslan ever believes, that is his dad. He doesn't question it.
At least it's something we don't see. Like, it's not necessarily relevant to his journey at this time.
Yeah, if it is something that he has wondered about, the story has not led us into this yet.
Yeah.
So this is not a question in his mind, but it's a question framed to the audience. And I just thought it was interesting that it is sort of like introduced, and then we're going to really simmer this for a while. This is on the back burner. We've added more burners to the stove, so it's all the way back there. Like, you can't even see it. Don't worry about it. Who's his dad? We'll talk to you in several volumes. Like, that's how much it gets to be downplayed, which seems purposeful. Not like, whoops, we forgot about the storyline. Like, no, we're going to introduce this. It's way back there. We're going to bring it back when we need it back, and that's not right now. But it seemed like that seems such a clean and easy coming of age plot point. My dad's not my real dad. Who is my dad? Is this person my dad? Like, that seems like something that would become a large portion of the story, and it doesn't, which, again, this isn't bad. I just think it's interesting that the story is not going where I think it's going to go. The things that seem important are all delayed.
We only read a small snapshot. So we read the first 3 volumes, and I think there's 12 in this manga.
Still,
so we got like just the start. Basically, it's like, here's the setup. Okay,
it is a setup. I just, in another story, I would have expected these elements to be more heavily part of the story earlier on. And I did appreciate that it's not exactly what I'm expecting, that the pacing is a little bit off in an interesting, purposeful way.
Yeah. I think it ends up being more so about his journey, like how does he become the king that he, is wanting to be, where he's like, okay, I'm gonna stay with this knight who's here to protect me. He has me meet Narcissus, and he's a tactician, he's a politician, right? He knows how to use strategy. He goes, I think I can do that.
Yeah,
or I can I can have you on my side, and maybe we can, it's like, because I don't necessarily see eye to eye with the current king, so let's talk, let's figure something else out. And I think he values that. And then he's like, okay, based off your strategies, what else do we need? Who else do we need? And he starts like building up his team to make his grand entrance back in and be like, the throne is mine now.
Yeah. These first 3 volumes are about assembling the squad, which I like. I like that he is taking on Narcissus as, you're a trusted advisor of mine. You're a nice compatriot. I'd like to have you around. Please join my band of warriors. You're looking for it to be like, I relate to you in ways that I've never related to my own father.
Yeah.
It's what you're looking for, and it's kind of a pleasant surprise.
Sorry, it's our internet
find what
connection.
You're looking for. Go ahead.
Yeah. So I was gonna say it, like, it's not that Arslan is completely clueless of just like, I don't know what to do. Everyone help me. He's smart, and he kind of is just by life experience starting to form his own ideas and stuff. He already knows, he's like, I don't like slavery. Like, I have seen that in my kingdom, and it makes no sense. And so when he kind of first meets Narcissus, and he's like, what would you do about slavery? It's like okay, he's actually kind of testing him to see if like this is someone that he actually does want on his team. So he's not completely like, oh God, what do I do? I'm this little kid in a big world.
Yeah, he does have a little bit of wisdom to him. You're right. He's got more of a mind for strategy than he does for any battle tactics. Or any actual, like,
more so
fighting.
Like common sense.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
He's a thoughtful, empathetic character in the way that a lot of the people around him haven't been.
Yeah. So let's dive into another aspect of this story. So the kingdom, it's the kingdom of Pars.
Yeah.
The royal city is Ecbatana. And then the kingdom that they're at war with is Lusitania, I believe.
Is like the ship.
Their name? Sure. I don't know what ship that is.
The Lusitania, it was a ship that was sunk, and it was like one of the lead-off points to like World War I or II, I think. Like somebody hit this one boat, and then somebody else was like, that's it, we're having a war.
Everyone's invited. Come on now.
I don't remember any of the other parts of it, but that did stick out to me as this is a well-known pre-existing word among all of these other fantasy things that are not recognizable. If they are taken from something, I didn't recognize what it was.
So I can't speak for the original novels that this is based off of, because they were written by someone else. But I know based off what is her name? I need to look up her name. The creator of Fullmetal Alchemist. Where was it? Hiromu Arakawa. she's done a number of things, but Fullmetal Alchemist in particular is her like big one, and that one is it has a lot of the same stuff that this one has, but a lot of the things that are going on in that show are kind of, I guess, allegories or metaphors for it's like, oh, okay, this is like a fake me out Germany. These guys are the Jews that they like persecuted and stuff like that. And these guys are those. All right, so I kind of see what's happening here, and I don't know if she picked this work because it had similar themes in that way, where she could be like, okay, this is kind of like the Persians. I don't know, their name is Pars. I don't know how much that holds up, but it's like I wonder if there's more to it than I know of just like, maybe there's a metaphor here, and this is actually supposed to be that country and stuff like that. So
I was curious about this. I don't know if this is something you said or if my brain just plugged in information from previous stories like this that I have read, but I was imagining before I started the series for the books to be set in a more like European sort of landscape, like sort of inspired more by like Western Europe. There's so many English, French inspired fantasy novels maybe. This is a lot more across like kind of Eastern Europe and like a lot of the Asian continent. It pulls a lot of different cultural seeming references, which was a nice surprise. It didn't seem to have like one clear allegory to like a country that I was able to read. I don't have a great memory for anything that I learned in history class, so maybe it's there. I mean, I remember the name of the Lusitania, and that's it. Eli Whitney invented the cotton gin?
Maybe they kind of just like changed the names and stuff, and then like was like, okay, I like you, I'm gonna put you there, I'm gonna put you right next to it, and voila, new story. But so I guess what I wanted to get at is this country that they're at war with is they're kind of on a crusade. They are more like the Crusaders. And they have this kind of religious war. It's like, we have the one and only God, and we must conquer everyone else so that you all believe in this one and only God. What did you think about the religious aspect in this book?
I wasn't expecting it. Which again, I think all the surprises I found in this book were nice surprises. It gave me a lot of stuff I hadn't seen before or hadn't seen in this kind of context, for this kind of age range before. Like I said, this is a story about a young adult prince, and most of the content of the story is like the fairly young adult. Like you give this like a 12-year-old pretty easily. The fact that it does have more serious philosophical stuff in it was, it's an interesting touch, and we didn't get to see a lot of that quite pay off yet, but it introduces some neat things. I like when at the beginning of the story, and not quite a prologue, but it's for that couple chapters where Arslan is still 11 before it jumps ahead in time, and then he's 14 for the whole rest of the story. There is a prisoner of war, like this child soldier that's brought to his capital city and is going to be put into the slavery program. And I think there's some other local kids that are going to go throw rocks at this poor slave boy, and Arslan's walking around and he tries to stop them, like, no, be nice to that kid. And then it looks like the kid like attacked, like the slave boy attacked those other kids throwing the rocks, and then he's like, he tried to escape, and him and Arslan just like run off. They kind of run across the city together for a while, and they have this interesting little like 11-year-old meeting of the minds where Arslan's like, I think it shows that our kingdom is mighty because we have the slaves. And look, and he's just parroting back everything he's ever heard an adult say to him. And he's like, they have a better life here than they would in their own home countries where we got them from. And the other boy's like, are you kidding me? Like, look around you. Like, this isn't working. This is terrible. And the boy starts talking about the religion from where he grew up and how it's like, well, the God that I live under would never allow this to happen. This god believes that we should love everyone. Except for the people that believe in the separate other version of the same god, like they're wrong.
We can kill them.
And then Arslan like looks at the boy. Like each of them have this moment of, I am parroting back something I have heard an adult say to me. I have been absolutely indoctrinated into this. And they have a moment where they like verbally saying it out loud to a new person who has not been aware of, oh, this is the way we live our lives. They kind of step back and, oh, does that make sense?
Right, yeah.
Which
just
I liked.
That sounds weird when you say it out loud.
Which I liked as a coming of age milestone. That this is one of his first tests to becoming a grown up and a king, is to stop and really think about things that he has been told and tell it to other people and get feedback and reinvestigate it and find out, is this right or can we do this a better way?
Yeah. Yeah, it's not something that I think the book handles very subtly, but I don't think it necessarily needs to. Like it's on the nose with a lot of stuff. It's over dramatic in a lot of stuff too. Like there is the one guy on the front lines of the Lusitania people who's just like burn all of the books and the sacred texts like our god will, and he's just
that
like
guy
turned up to 200. And
that guy, he's okay. So I don't want to say like I love that guy because he's a terrible person, but he's an interesting character. Not in that he has any nuance or depth to him at all, but like you said, he's just turned up to 11, and the way he's illustrated, like there is such a madness in his eyes, and it even goes to the word bubble. Like his dialogue is written in like this scratchier pen than everybody else's is. Like I like the way his characterization was executed and how they really put all the tools they had to work to get the point across to you. Like, this guy is absolutely off his rocker.
Yeah. What I just kind of realized is this is a story of opposites. Of like, you have the like mighty strong warrior king, and then the like small puny prince boy who's just like, I'm not good at fighting. And then you have the like the very cultured civilization, and then the barbarians, but the barbarians have religion, these ones don't, and it's just this like, you see these wild and crazy caricature like characters, and then you see like a relationship between Arslan and I don't know how to pronounce his name, it's like Itoile or something. I don't know, but he's the like small slave boy that you see at first, and then when we see him again, he's a Lusitanian soldier.
Thanks for reminding me what his name is. I looked up the description of the story on Wikipedia, and it only gives you like the main 6 characters.
Gotcha.
I didn't have access to the other ones.
I don't know how to pronounce his name, but
Etoile.
Yeah, something like that. But like, their relationship ends up being a lot more nuanced and a lot more subtle of just like, hey, you're actually someone my age that I feel on the same level with when I actually do put strategy out there or an argument. Whereas like when he's with Narcissus, he knows that Narcissus is smarter, right?
Yes.
But if he talks to Narcissus's servant, I don't remember his name, but he's just like...
Oh, I just had it. Elam.
I'm not sure, but it like when he's talking to him, he can just tell it's like, okay, you don't care about this stuff, so I can't really talk to you either, even though you're my age. And then there's this like, I was gonna say like sibling rivalry, but they aren't siblings, but just this rivalry with someone on the opposite side. He's like, you're also my age. We don't believe the same things. Why do you believe the stuff you believe?
We are peers. Like, that is maybe the first person Arslan's had in his life. Because it doesn't seem like there's other children around the palace. He's an only child. It doesn't seem like there's any cousins, or like he has his own like squire or anything like that. Like, it seems like he's really cut off from other children.
Very sheltered.
He's just around all these adults. So even if this other child's from a vastly different background and set of beliefs, they're still peers to each other.
Yeah, but it's all of these opposites. The like, here's the extreme stuff, here's the very subtle stuff, here's the big giant thing, here's the big small thing. That I think makes those more extreme things that are very on the nose or aren't handled very adeptly. I feel like it makes it work better.
Yeah.
Because they're not trying to say anything specific by just including it, but then it's the contrast of like, oh, okay, you can see the madness in this one dude, and then you can see on the opposite end, here's someone who's a lot more calm and stuff like that. And then it's just like, okay, this is interesting to follow, and I think it makes for a lot of really complex dynamics.
Yeah, and we also see an opposite in another pair of characters we haven't gotten to yet, which is Giev, who's like the traveling bard and con man, and then Ferangis.
I think it's pronounced Ferengis.
Ferengis. Okay.
If I remember from the anime, I believe it's pronounced Ferengis or like Ferengis.
Okay. She is this, just like an acolyte in some sort of a kind of religious organization somewhere that is like, has ties to the Parsian royal family. Like, she's like a monk, like training somewhere.
Yeah.
And like, because like a donation was made to the monastery in Arslan's name, when like when things are falling apart, like one of the superiors like sends her out, like, you are our best warrior, we are going to send you out, like, go find the prince and keep an eye on him with all your warrior stuff we've taught you to do, like, this is what you should be using it for. She's something like that.
Yeah.
So you've got Giev, who is a con man. Like, he's all trickery, he's all lies, he's super suave, and he's all words. Like, he doesn't do much hand-to-hand combat. He's just trying to, like...
poet. And he's just like, by the light of your beauty, it is this and that, and you like a dewdrop in the morning.
Yeah. Like, he's just trying to lie and charm his way out of everything. And then you get him and Ferengis together, and she's physically trained. Like, she is a warrior. And personality-wise, she is very just, like, blunt, to the point, no ego to her, whatever. Like, Yev's very bombastic, you know, kind of full of himself, and Ferengis is just stating very basic facts, like, I think my she says something that, like, maybe she wasn't chosen, maybe that, like, the other people at her monastery or whatever it was said, oh, she should go. Yev asked,
she's kind of the black sheep.
Yeah, and one of the things she says is, I think they were all jealous of how attractive I am. And it's not a brag, it's just like a flat, basic statement.
Yeah.
And she is like amazing figure, wearing like this really skimpy costume. Like, picture like a fantasy pinup woman painted on the side of a van. This is what she looks like. So the fact that she says it is just this like blank, flat it might have been that why people didn't like me.
She's like, but I don't know.
I don't know.
Yeah, they're good.
The only one there dressing
characters.
like that. We don't know. She's like the last of the major cast members to get introduced, so we don't know very much about her yet. And we've seen her interact with Giev, but she's like just gotten to meet like Arslan and Daryun and Narcissus and everybody else. So we're gonna see how that how she fits in with the rest of the team, and how that team of 6 people kind of coalesces and becomes this legendary band of warriors and a poet and a painter.
Yeah. Who's also very bad at painting.
I do like that he's a notoriously you do not see his paintings. You don't see one brushstroke of him. All you see is everybody else's facial expressions reacting to the paintings.
It's just like, oh God, what is that?
It's a nice touch.
Yeah, it really reminds me of the characters in Fullmetal Alchemist, which again is like, I don't know how much of this is actually in the books, or how much of this is this creator's adaptation of just like, well, what if he's really bad at painting instead? You know, we can add some comedy with that. But yeah, you get this like wild cast of characters who have all of these different personalities and quirks, and just they'll say stupid things or they'll do stupid things, and it's just like, this is fun. Like, it's fun to watch them interact and go about their business and do all of that stuff. And then for those of you who like the action side, it's like, oh, they have a plan. Let's see how they like make this thing work. And we kind of see one of them. We don't get to see too much yet in these first 3 volumes. But I remember from the anime as well the scene where all of the Lusitanian soldiers that are chasing after Arslan, or like hunting him, they lead them to this like very narrow pathway that's on this cliff, and then they ambush them there because the horses can't really maneuver in that area, or they fall off, and so they're sitting there like, there has to be like 100 of them, and there's like 4 of them, maybe 5. And it's just like, how are they doing this? And it's like, I love this. This is great.
So. Another character that is an interesting study in opposites and is weirdly like more pleasant than I was expecting is the Lusitanian king. When like they've finally Ecbatana is falling, like they've broken through the gates, all these soldiers have been coming through, and then finally the king of Lusitania is about to arrive, and from this, I think you compare them to being kind of like barbarians within the scope of the story, where the Parsians are supposed to be the more civilized ones. This is the opposite, pair that the story is trying to set up. You're expecting some big, terrifying warrior, or like a conniving scholar who's got a mind for strategy, and instead they bring in, he's this very large man being carried around by 4 servants on like this litter. He's being carried around on poles, and he's got this real kind of, his name is King Innocentus. Like, they just spelled it right out.
There's a couple names that are like right on the nose. His name is Innocentus. His name is Narcissus. Okay.
But yeah, like, you get it right away, like, oh, this guy's just a figurehead. Like, he doesn't do anything. Like, it's right there in front of you. Like, oh, his feet don't touch the ground. He's not on the front lines. He doesn't know what's happening. He has no battle skills. He doesn't seem to be very smart. He's just sort of this big, sweet guy. It's not terribly sweet, but sweeter than you would think. Again, it's just more than what you have been set up to expect. And he gets to Ecbatana, and he sees the queen. The queen who's been hiding away in the castle, and he falls for the queen, and he's like, well, if I am going to become emperor of all these lands, I think I need an empress. He's like, I'm still single. I can get it done. And the fact that there's no power to the man at all. He never's like, there's no edge to him. There's no lust. He looks at her and like blushes, just like, oh, pretty lady. Oh, I hope she likes me. And it never occurs to him that he's like, well, if I'm the new emperor, I could just command her to marry me. Like, there's nothing like that. He, like, very cautiously approaches her and is very nervous about asking her, like, well, my people say that I should have somebody to rule by my side if you would do me the honor. Like, he's taking it so sincerely, which you would never expect. Like, it never occurs to this man, like, that he could boss anybody around. Like, he's a figurehead that, like, doesn't, like, he doesn't even know what a position of power he's supposed to be in. He never attempts anything close to power. He's just a guy in a crown is all he is.
Yeah. Yeah, which, by the way, in my head, I don't remember what his voice sounds like in the anime, but in my head, he sounds like Augustus St. Cloud from Venture Burrows. Like, excuse me, Queen, would you do me the honor of being my empress? The people say that I need to take an empress.
Not a bad choice. Not a bad choice at all. But this introduces us to the story where he wants to marry the queen. And, like, his brother is his royal advisor. He has some, like, people in his cabinet. They're all like, oh, you can't marry that lady. She's cursed. And they tell this story about how she was once, like, this happened to her before. Like, she was also, like, the prize of a kingdom that had been trampled. And she was supposed to marry this incoming prince. And then, like, the other prince killed his brother so that he got to marry her. And then he ended up dying. And then somehow she came to, the Ekbatana, and she married this king. So all of these guys have this notion in their head, like, oh no, this lady's cursed. Like, the last kingdom she was a part of fell. This kingdom is falling. I mean, we are destroying the kingdom, but, like, this lady seems like bad luck. They're like, the king, he can't marry her. We don't want this woman as an empress. Yeah. Someone talk him out of it, which is a really neat story twist. I haven't seen that before, of just, we think this lady is a bad luck charm. Don't do it. And this is introduced just briefly enough, and we don't hear her side of the story. We don't know what Queen Tahamane, what her perspective on all these events has been. She's very closed off to other characters and to us as the audience. We never get to see, like, a real peek inside of who she really is. So this plot thread kind of leaves it open to where, is this urban legend? Is it all these men just being mean to this woman? Like, all these things fell apart around her. It must be her fault. She's cursed. Like, is this all, like, hearsay and panic and prejudice? But there's this, like, little open area of, well, how do we know she isn't magic? We've no proof to tell us otherwise. Is this when the story is going to start pulling out magic things like, she is cursed. She is a sorceress. Like, we don't know. She could be anything. Like, we get so little of her.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, there is more stuff with their relationship. This, the Lusitanian king and Princess, or I guess Queen Tahamane was her name. But, yeah, something like that. That's one thing this book, I think, goes to, like, level 11 and just is unapologetic for. All of these names are incredibly difficult to pronounce and say, and it's just like, could you not have picked a name like Tom? King Tom. That's fine.
Right.
Something like that is great.
Like, I'm not a Game of Thrones person, but looking at it from afar, I appreciate that there are breaks where we have all these fantasy names, and then it's like, we know your brain needs a break. This guy's just named Jamie. That normal name you've heard of.
Yeah. No, but, like, I actually really like that they don't go easy on you. Yeah. Which, I mean, it sucks for me, who's terrible at remembering names, and I'm just like, Tom, what was his name? I don't know. But like, I like that they do that, because again, there are certain things in here that is just very blatant and very on the nose, of just like, oh, these guys are like a stand-in for the Crusaders. And it's like, but then there's all, like, the complexity of these names, and there's all this terminology. Like, it's not just your normal knight and squire and this. They have their own words for that. And I'm just like, I like that they're doing that because I feel like I get more of their culture.
Yeah.
But at the same time, man, I am struggling to keep up.
When those terms are introduced, it just with like a little asterisk over to the side in the margin telling you this is what this term means. Which, as the story goes on, I really wish there had just been a dedicated, at the beginning of each volume, here's a glossary page. So you told me this once. It hasn't come up in a couple chapters. I don't remember what it means. You didn't remind me of it. I don't remember all these different levels of like, well, this is a cavalry knight, and this is an infantry knight. It makes sense to me that this series is adapted from a novel, because I think in a novel it's easier to do jargon like this because you're getting narration like within a character's head.
True.
Like, it's easier to use terms like this over and over again and like really drill them into like the reader's brain. You're going to keep seeing this term. Like, it's easier for you to grasp it if it's got that kind of repetition and like narrative structure to it. But when it's only coming up like occasionally in dialogue, like I couldn't keep track of it.
There's a certain density of a certain density within the novel of just like, you're gonna see these terms so much more, whereas in a manga or a comic, it's like, well, you'll probably see them a lot, but still just not as much, and so it's just that much of just like, okay, keep up, you have to figure it out. But yeah, I like that stuff, but it is unrelenting.
Yeah.
And then something I actually wanted to go back to kind of was something else with the religious stuff, but more so on the slaves. Like, I think what happens with the slaves is really interesting. There is a scene where the Lusitanian army is like surrounding the walls of the city, and they're all chanting in they're chanting in unison, calling out to the slaves like, hey, fight with us. If you convert to our religion, we will set you free. You will be a normal person. You can get a job. You can have a family. Just be with us, right? And it works. It basically sets the city into chaos, and it helps get the soldiers on the inside. But once the soldiers are on the inside, they still keep the slaves as slaves.
Yeah.
And it sucks. And it it makes for this moment then where the same thing happens again, but to the Lusitanian soldiers, where they're sitting there like, hey, you promised we would go free. What happened to that? You promised us money. Like, you promised us all of this stuff. Where is it? We want it now. Like, and so they start to rebel and fight back, and it's just like, oh, okay, well, maybe things aren't as good on the inside as we thought they were. Okay. But I really like moments like that because I think at the end of the day, this book is this kind of back and forth cat and mouse chess game of like, okay, we make this move, what happens next?
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to make that move. It's like, well, okay, well, because you stepped there, this thing is happening, which then forces us to do that. And, it's just like, I like watching all of that unfold. And I think this comic does a great job of explaining it all, of just like, in very simple terms, here is what is happening, which I'm sure you could find a lot of similar stuff in something like Game of Thrones, but it's so subtle and it's so complicated and it's just like you have to really know politics and all of that stuff. And this is just like, well, they said they would free the slaves and they didn't, so now the slaves are mad. The end. Like, I can understand that. This simpleton that I am.
And again, like I said, I think this is a good I'm going to keep using the word fantasy even if it's not exactly the right term, because this sort of medieval historical battle goes along with fantasy a lot, and with young adult like coming of age tales. I feel like you don't maybe get as many of those in non-fantasy historical dramas.
Yeah.
Quite like this one. It is a good story for a younger audience. Not too young, but like I said, this is like a good like middle school level story. And that it does have a cat and mouse game that is a little bit more simplified. A leads to B. There aren't tons of threads for you to keep a hold of. There's a lot of characters, but many of them are just sort of soldiers and advisors that are just sort of in and out. They serve a purpose. Somebody kills them. Here's another guy to like deliver more exposition. Somebody kills him. Like, I think you get a sense of, oh, I don't think I need to pay attention to this guy. I won't need to remember his name 4 chapters from now.
Yeah. Yep. That makes sense. So, what is there something about this that you did not like? Or you wished you saw more of?
I was talking earlier about Ferengeis. Is that the pronunciation we landed on? She's interesting.
Ferengeis? I don't know.
She's interesting, but she comes in towards the end of volume 3, which again is all that we read. But until she showed up, I kept waiting for, are we going to get any girls in this? And I am a female reader who is more comfortable with a large male cast of characters. It's not something I typically mind. But when we have gone a long stretch with nobody except for the standoffish queen and her couple handmaidens that don't really say anything.
Yeah.
Are there any like local girls that start fighting? Does anybody have a sister somewhere? Is there kind of one girl, please? One is all I need. It's like, oh good, okay, finally we got one.
And then you got the one side character, the nun, that was getting busy with what's his name? She's not a nun. She's like a lady in waiting for the queen. Seems like she's like a Natalie Portman in the Phantom Menace. Like she's just wearing the sort of headdress thing that looks vaguely like a nun, but she's just like part of the queen's squad. So she can go out there and sleep with a prince, I guess, if she wants to. Yeah, but it still was just this like, you probably shouldn't have been doing that, huh? Okay. Yeah. Good for you. Good for her.
Like I like that little sprinkle where like it's Giev coming in saying, he's like, yes, I am but a traveling bard coming through your city. And then this handmaiden's like, hold on, this is not what this guy said to me the other night. He told me he was a prince, he wined me and dined me. I'm embarrassed, but I'm going to admit it to you. Just to corner this guy into saying, what's your deal, dude? Why do you keep lying to everybody? Who's the real story? Yeah. I'm not going to let you lie to my queen like this. Yeah. I like that little dash. I'd like more of, I hope we do get, you may, having seen the anime, know a little bit more about where the story goes than I do. But I would like to see what is the queen's perspective on things. And who are the women that she chooses to have around her? Are they friends? Is the queen friends with anybody? Are these handmaidens at least friends with each other? Like, do they, even if the queen doesn't talk to them, do they talk about the queen? What are their observations?
Yeah, that's a good thing to mention. There are not many women in this comic. If I do remember correctly, you do get more of the queen's side of things and her story, her backstory, how she fits in with all of that. And I think there are some more women characters that come up. But again, it's been a while since I've seen it, so I don't really remember. But you're right. There's not much of them in there.
And I don't necessarily mind like the minimal role that the queen plays. I think her being a mystery is really intriguing. I like just what a weird, complete open storyline she could be. Like I said earlier, it's like, well, are these people just spreading rumors about her, or is there something fantastical to them saying, I think she's cursed? Like, we know so little about her that anything could be true, and that open-endedness is pretty exciting. Mm-hmm. If she was more fleshed out, who knows if it would be as exciting as just the mystery of whoever the heck she could be.
Yeah.
So I don't mind that the queen is downplayed, but I was like reading about Ecbatana being besieged and everybody's in battle, and I'm like, is there just like one milkmaid who's like, well, I'm gonna learn to fight?
Yeah, that would be great. If I had to say something that I didn't like, honestly, I think this moves faster than I would like. I kind of want to spend more time with the characters because they are really funny and they're fun to be around, but there's so much happening that you kind of jump around from thing to thing a lot, and that can be a little bit jarring. It's not bad, but it makes for a story that's really exciting, but I think like I just like, give me more moments like this scene where Arslan runs into Itule or so, whatever his name was, at the stream, and they're talking, and he hands him that Bible. Here are the actual teachings of my religion and stuff like that. Like, that was a great character moment, but I want more of them. Give me more.
Yes.
Slow it down a little bit.
Yeah, like I would like to learn more about Daryun, like what his past is, why he's still such good friends with Narcissus all these years. Like, things like that would be nice. Yeah.
Something I would like to see more of, I think, would be, well, I guess that's the same thing as like stuff I thought was not so great. So I will move on from that stuff. Do you have anything else to say, add something else you want to talk about?
I think just as a concluding remark, I'd like to mention that the artwork in these books is nice. It's just very good. Clean, simple lines, but all the characters are still really expressive. The first time you see Arslan, he's really endearing. He's got these big, innocent eyes, but it's not so far that it's like cartoony. He doesn't look like Bambi or something. Like, it was a nice line that they wrote in making him this wide-eyed, innocent boy without it being real over the top like that. It's a really well illustrated book.
Indeed. If you had recommendations, what might you recommend to someone who liked this?
Okay. So you remember on the Captain's Log some weeks ago, we were talking about like favorite books or favorite stories of any kind that we return to throughout our lives. And I mentioned this fantasy book series called the Night Runner series. Mm-hmm. So there's that same author, which is, in the Night Runner series is this medieval fantasy series about these two thieves that are like clandestine spies for the queen, these sort of thriller books. But the author within this same fantasy world wrote a separate series that takes place in the same world centuries earlier. Like the Night Runner books, they make allusions to this queen of the past, and then the author's like, I want to tell that queen's story. Just take this little bit of like window dressing exposition. I want to write 3 books about that lady.
That's awesome.
So that series of books, it's called the Tamir Triad by Lynn Flewelling, and the first book is called The Bone Doll's Twin. And the story of these books is that in this kingdom, there was a prophecy centuries ago that said, you need a line of queens. If the kingdom is ruled over by a line of queens, you're going to be safe forever. So this previous patriarchal royal society was like, okay, well, listen to the oracle. princess, how old are you? Like 15? You're the queen now. You're ruling all of us. How do we do battle, miss, ma'am, queen? So that...
You like battle, right?
So like that happened, and this has been going on for years and years and years until there's this one queen who has all of these disasters befall her reign. There's plagues, there's drought and famine and all of this, and she has the son who says, you know, maybe that oracle back then was wrong. Maybe we've been misinterpreting it. Maybe the kingdom at that time needed a queen and we don't need it anymore. So his mom dies and he's like, I'm king now, going back to kings. And he's secretly killing off every female in his bloodline, any female who could challenge him from the throne. But he saves his little sister. And by little sister, I mean she's like 20. And this woman is about to have... There's a lot of setup for this, I'm sorry. This woman is about to have twins, and an oracle predicts she's going to have a twin boy and a twin girl, and the oracle sends this prediction to this wizard lady, and it's like, okay, wizard lady, here's what you got to do to set the kingdom right. Because while this king has been ruling, everything's gotten worse. There's still drought and plague and famine and war. Like, everything's still terrible, and there's all these whisperings of, I don't think he's right. I think we need to go back to queens. So it's like, okay, wizard lady, this is what you got to do. There's going to be a twin boy and girl born to this princess. You need to kill the boy and then swap their forms. So what you have is the soul, like the mind and soul of this baby girl that looks like her brother. So when the king comes to see his sister's babies, he's like, oh yes, a healthy baby boy and a girl that is dead. Because they know that this king, like, he spared his little sister. He would not spare any daughters she had. Like, his sympathy for her only went so far. So, like, he's going to see exactly what he wants to see, exactly what he needs to see. This future queen is under the spell. We're going to raise her as this little boy, and then when the time is right, we're going to undo all the spells. We're going to send her out. She's the queen we've all been waiting for, and she's going to take down this king. Okay? I'm sorry that was so much setup just to lead into the fact that most of these books are about this young prince has no idea what the spell that has been wrought on him, has no idea of his true identity. It is revealed to him later. Then he accepts his new identity as this princess, as this queen who's about to rule the kingdom. But for the bulk of the story, it is a young boy prince, as he so believes, who is learning to be a warrior and learning to navigate court politics, which is why these books reminded me of this thing. It's like him, he's got a squire, he's with all these other royal and noble boys, and they all have squires, so it's just a bunch of boys going through like sword training together and horseback riding together. And we're going to learn battle strategy, and we're going to, push the wooden ships across a big map of the kingdom, and we're going to figure out how to wage a war, because war is still going on, and everybody's so excited, like, my dad says I might get to join him in battle once I turned 15. It's stuff like that. And it is, this is a story that is, it's dark, it is grim, but also has these really fun, heartfelt elements among this group of kids that are all bonded together, that are trying to be warriors to, like, have each other's backs. So I know that was a lot of setup, but I'm like, if I just say, yeah, it's about, like, some boys learning to be warriors, I'm like, you have left out major parts of this story. Somebody's going to look this up, and they're like, what did she say this book was about again?
Well, it took a bit, but yes, I can see why that would be a great recommendation.
It gets there. You're going to start reading the book, and you're like, I don't see what this has to do with Arslan, but, like, when you get more chapters in, you're like, now I'm getting it. Okay. Yeah. This is Arslan-esque.
Yeah. If I had to recommend some things, of course, you should check out Fullmetal Alchemist by the same creator. It's one of my favorites. Both of the animes are good. I like Brotherhood a lot better.
I think that is what most people say. Yeah.
Yeah. But I would also want to recommend Vinland Saga, which is another manga that is like historical fiction kind of thing. It's based around the Vikings and kind of like the fall of the Vikings and stuff like that, like the establishment of, I'm not from across the pond, so just like all of those English countries and stuff like that. But it is based on historical events and real battles and stuff like that.
Okay.
But it's telling its own story kind of woven in between that, about this young boy whose father was a famous Viking captain, and his father ends up being killed, and then he wants to go get revenge and kill the person that killed his father. But it takes him a lifetime to make that happen, and in the meantime he ends up working for the person that killed his father, and he knows it, and they know it. So it's just this, like, just wait, one day it's gonna happen, one day. But it is the whole, like, big sprawling story. There's all sorts of politics and battles and stuff involved. So I would say go check out Vinland Saga.
Okay.
I've read the first couple of volumes of that. We actually covered it on an old episode of the Whatnauts podcast, which was like the first iteration of this show, of the review show. That's on our website. I don't remember what number it was. I think it's in the 90s. Something like that, so you guys can go find that there once you've checked it out. But that was good. That was one that I've been like, I need to go back and finish that.
You've mentioned it before, yeah.
It was good. So that would be my recommendation. Melissa, next week, we are doing part 1, if I'm not mistaken, of our watch through of Mr. Robot.
Yeah, this is our next series. We did all of Venture Brothers across 3 different episodes, and we're gonna keep doing this for the foreseeable future. Mr. Robot's our next show, and we're gonna do an episode on season 1. Just one podcast episode per season is how this one is working out, because these seasons are a bit longer.
Yeah. So that should be a lot of fun. That is what we will do for next week. But Melissa, it is your turn to make the pitch for what will happen the week after that.
So because we have a little bit extra time, I have slightly longer pitches, but... Okay, so I have 3 film series. We have a set of 4, a set of 3, or a set of 2. So depending on how much spare time you think you're going to have over the next 2 weeks, how far along you've watched in Mr. Robot, you can pick the amount of movies that feels right for your schedule.
Sounds good.
Okay. So, and these are all British film series also is how it worked out. So pitch number 1, if we were living in timeline A of the year 2020, by now we would have already seen No Time to Die. But now we're not going to get to see No Time to Die until November. But I figured we can live vicariously. We can still spend some time with our old friend James Bond. Let's watch all his movies. Not all his movies to date. All of Daniel Craig James Bond's movies to date. I thought, since we're not going to see No Time to Die until later this year, where Rami Malek plays the villain, star of Mr. Robot, we can watch the James Bond movies and Mr. Robot real close next to each other and pretend like we're watching No Time to Die.
Okay. Fair enough. Good stuff.
So pitch number 1 is the Daniel Craig James Bond movies. This is Casino Royale, Quantum of Solace, Skyfall, and Spectre.
Cool.
Pitch number 3 is a more loosely collected series of films. This is not a shared narrative, but it is a shared creative team. This is what is known as the Cornetto Trilogy. These are the 3 films directed by Edgar Wright, starring Simon Pegg and Nick Frost. It's Shaun of the Dead, Hot Fuzz, and The End of the World.
Gotcha.
They call these the Cornetto trilogy because that's the name of like a an ice cream cone snack, like a drumstick, over in England, and somebody's eating one in every one of these movies.
Weird.
That's like a running joke. So the name for this collective series of films is the Cornetto trilogy. But yeah, it's not a continuous narrative, but it's the same creative team, the same sort of style. And these 3 films are all a takeoff of a genre. Shaun of the Dead is a romantic comedy set during a zombie apocalypse. Mm-hmm. So it's a takeoff on horror movies. Hot Fuzz is a takeoff on action movies where this police officer who is so good at his job that he is making everybody else in his post in the city look bad, that they send him to the tiniest, quietest country town to get him out of their hair. And then he uncovers a giant conspiracy. And it's like the greatest.
Geese.
It's like, we're just going to send you away so you don't make us look bad. But yeah, it ends up being the greatest action story of his life in the sleepy little British cottage town. And then The End of the World. This one, I've seen all of these, but some of them I've just seen like once each. And The End of the World is about these old college buddies that are reuniting, and they're going to go on a pub crawl through all of the pubs in their hometown, the final pub of which is named The End of the World. And they've never made it. They've tried every couple years for their whole lives. They've never made it to the end of the pub crawl without just getting completely blackout drunk. Right. But they're dedicated. They're like, we're going to get to the end of the pub crawl. And then there's some sci-fi problem that they encounter. I forget what it is in this movie, which is why I'm excited to see it. I know I've seen it before. I know I like it. I don't remember much of it.
Gotcha.
Right.
Interesting.
So yeah. I hope that gets the point across. Are you familiar with these movies?
I've heard of the first 2 of them. I actually haven't seen any of them.
Okay. They're fun.
I've heard very good things about Hot Fuzz. That is a lot of people's like one of their top 10 like funniest movies.
These movies are excellent. And I thought this would be a fun pitch because Simon Pegg and Nick Frost are a well-known comedy duo, and we've seen both of these actors on our show before separately. I thought it was time to unite them. And pitch number 3. So we had a series of 4 movies, series of 3 movies. This is one movie and its sequel. It is another one of Britain's finest heroes. It's Paddington the Bear.
Oh, man.
Kyle, we could watch Paddington and Paddington 2. Movies that have been very highly critically acclaimed. Like, I have not seen any of these yet. I don't know what the situation is, but everything I have heard from everyday people and from like film critics of all kinds are like, these movies are excellent. I think Paddington 2 came out in like 2018, and it was on so many top 10 lists at the end of 2018. I think it is one of the highest rated movies to ever be on Rotten Tomatoes. And I need to know what the heck the story is about these.
I'm right there with you. I think that is the one I need to pick because
we gotta find out what Paddington is.
Either, and everyone is just they speak like the Lusitanian soldiers, like he's the best. You must believe in Paddington. God. All will convert to Paddington. Let's watch both of the Paddington movies.
I've been wanting to pitch these for forever. Same. What are they? How are they this good? Like, I remember seeing the trailers.
Why is Gamora?
I remember seeing the trailers. I'm like, this looks cute. This looks really charming and like a fun time for the whole family. And then to find out this is one of the greatest films of the 21st century.
Cool. I'm excited.
Yeah.
I'm excited to check these out because these are not something I would normally go see or pay attention to, and it was so strange to hear so many people just being like, but no, these are actually really good movies. And I'm just like, okay, I believe you. And it just kept happening, and it was just like, God, what did I miss out on? So I'm excited for that.
Yeah.
Just to recap, next week, season 1 of Mr. Robot is what we will be covering. And then the week after that, the 2 Paddington movies.
Paddington.
Be excited for all of that. Yeah. 2 Paddington, 2 Furious.
2 furry.
Yeah. There you go. Melissa, where can people find you on the internet?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Wilkywit. That's WILKYWIT.
And you guys can find me at Yo Kyle Springer on Twitter and Instagram. If you guys want to stay up to date with our show, we are at the Whatnauts on Twitter. Go like, share, subscribe. Go follow us on Twitch, twitch.tv/the Whatnauts. We could absolutely use your help on that.
Yeah, tune in with us.
Because we don't have very many followers on there. So go help us out. We would appreciate that a ton. But with that said, this has been episode 103 of the Whatnauts Review Show. We will see you guys next week. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much for checking out our podcast. We hope you enjoyed that one. Leave a comment down below if you too have seen The Heroic Legend of Arslan. I remember when it came out on Hulu and I found it and I was super excited. So let us know down in the comments below if you have seen it as well. In the meantime, go subscribe to our channel right up here. That would help us out a ton. And go watch one of our other videos right down there, because we got plenty of other podcasts for you to check out. But until then, we will see you next time. Bye.